the Ohio State men's basketball team was eliminated from the Big Ten tournament earlier today against Purdue. And, it's kind of a bittersweet feeling because this essentially ends their season. We as Ohio State fans can kind of laugh and joke about, oh, they're going to be, they're going to steal a bid somewhere. But with just how stinky and awful and horrible that their play in the Big Ten Conference was, I think we can kind of kiss that possibility out of the window. They would have had to have won the Big Ten tournament outright and got that auto bid in order for there to be any chance of them actually playing in the big dance for the top, the final 64, technically 68 teams or whatever. But what this run in the tournament did was it kind of showed us what this team could be, especially when you consider that the performance against Michigan State and some of the and even a lot of aspects against Purdue today was without Bryce Sensabaugh, which I think is probably what they're going to have to get used to. I know Bryce Sensabaugh, you think from a basketball standpoint, it didn't end on a high note. He gets that knee, that season-ending knee injury, and maybe you'd think that, well, he might want to come back for another year, especially what they've put together in this run here. But he is projected to be a possible top-round pick in the NBA draft. I'm guessing it will certainly be at least that thought is at least running in Bryce's mind of, hey, I probably could get to the NBA now. I'm sure that's a thought that's running across his mind, and I think if push comes to shove at this point, he's probably heading for the NBA, and I don't blame him for that necessarily, but it is kind of sad to see that you have the young talent that did step up in this tournament, like Bruce Thornton, like Roddy Gale Jr., Felix Okpara is a guy that's throughout the season has gotten better and better, and you add Bryce Sensabaugh into that mix, and maybe you have something, you feel like there could have been something special here, and that's what made this Big Ten conference season for this men's basketball team very disappointing. I haven't been covering them because, again, I've been covering a lot of bad teams, and I kind of hinted that I might do that at the beginning of January, and that's when they went on their huge skid, both men's and women's basketball teams putting on their worst stretches of play after I hinted that maybe I could start doing some basketball coverage. But, besides that, I do want to get this video done because I think what this run did was, I don't know if it necessarily saved Chris Holtmann's job, but I do think that there would have been a lot tougher conversations had this not happened, because there have been a lot of weird things this year. The upperclassmen weren't necessarily running on all cylinders. Zed Key was probably playing with a pretty debilitating injury. He didn't seem like he was himself. There were upperclassmen getting stripped of leadership roles, and the program being kind of very hesitant to leak stuff like that, and I understand why, but just some of that kind of raises your eyebrows at maybe with the job that Chris Holtmann is doing. But what this run in the Big Ten tournament did, especially, again, you consider going up against, Mr. March and Tom Izzo and that Michigan State team, and again, I do really think that Purdue game was a lot better of a showing than the final score might indicate. My full analysis of that Purdue game is that Zach Edey is 7'4", and that is literally unfair. That is an actual cheat code. I don't think 2K lets you make a player that tall, so in my opinion, that is a human cheat code that they have in Zach Edey. And of course, he was going to eat a lot of points and draw a lot of fouls with that with that advantage you have there. But I feel like with this run, Chris Holtmann definitely got some more job security, because we did see that he is able to get a game plan through to these guys. They did show some chemistry. He is able to put some lineups together that mesh well and can compete and go. It is, again, it's really unfortunate that they took this long to, kind of have that click and figure that out, because I feel like if their Big Ten play was even okay, if it was even fine, then maybe we are talking about this Ohio State team having a spot in the big, in the final 64. Instead, we're kind of looking at, well, maybe next year we'll come back and we'll see all this click again, and that's kind of that's kind of a risk there, because while in theory, yes, you should be able to return most of the guys who are, they're young and they can contribute for a couple years while the Chris Holtmann is here, and build the program from there. You never know. The Chris Holtmann era has had issues with January and struggles that bled into February this year, even with teams that you thought would do even more than what this team was thought of. I think the projections did show that this Ohio State basketball team might have taken a step back because of the new faces in, but we've seen what these new faces can do, and when they're clicking on all cylinders, they're not complete like, oh, national title favorites or anything, but they can definitely earn a spot in the tournament, which is why I feel like I feel like Chris Holtmann might have been skating on maybe some thin ice after this year, but that ice did kind of get a little bit thicker because there is now proof that, hey, there is something here with this team, with this young core. Chris Holtmann can get through to them, and they can, communicate and get everything going. It just kind of sucked that it took them this long to figure this out. I feel like we kind of knew something was up when they lost to Minnesota at home of all teams. But this run in the Big Ten tournament, the first time a 13 seed has made it as far as the Buckeyes did, that's certainly commendable. But again, this season is done for them now. It is on to next year. They do have some good pieces. I mentioned earlier, Bruce Thornton, he's going to get better. Felix Okpara looks like he's already becoming an impact player. Who knows if Bryce Sensabaugh is going to be back or not? That's kind of why I'm kind of leaning on the side of he's going to the NBA, because I feel like that's, if you expect disappointment, the disappointment won't be as hard when it gets there. But anyway, I do feel like this run from the Buckeyes did kind of give Chris Holtmann a little more breathing room. I don't necessarily think that Ohio State would have fired him if the Buckeyes bowed out to Iowa or even Wisconsin. I lean toward that they still would have kept him around. But if they did lose to Iowa or Wisconsin, I do feel like it would have been next year better be great in order for us to justify keeping you around. But with this run, it does feel like there was a bit of a foundation that this team has, and Chris Holtmann does look like to be a part of that foundation. And if Roddy Gale can continue, finding his shooting streak, then that would be nice. Justice Suing playing the way he did was really fun to watch in a tough season that's been kind of on and off for him. But anyway, it was a valiant way for the Buckeyes to go out. Again, Purdue has a 7'4" tall guy who is quite literally unguardable for that team. So, hopefully they can carry momentum into next year. I'm not a big momentum into next year guy. I do feel like building momentum, there's not, you build momentum within that season. I don't know if they're necessarily building momentum from one season to another, but there is a foundation. We do have proof. We have seen that there is something there to this team. And I feel like that is what's giving Chris Holtmann a little bit more breathing room as of right now. So thank you all for watching. If you made it this far into the video, I will see you at the next one.